Millions of new files have been released in regards to the Epstein files, like 3 million new files released, and everything in it is just absolutely horrendous. It is just disgusting, vile stuff. It's somehow even worse than many of us were already expecting. Words can't even describe how disgustingly evil all the stuff in these files are. I don't even know how much you can get away with saying on YouTube. That's the crazy part. The website where you can search within the millions of documents of the Epstein files now requires you to accept that you're over 18 to look at it. So it's basically like rated R documents. Obviously, I mean, we all could have guessed that, but I don't know how much you can talk about it on like YouTube or X or anything, but it's disgusting. The worst part is everyone popping up in it is exactly who you would expect. It's a bunch of people in the Trump administration, a bunch of the people you already would have expected to be like Trump's handlers. Howard Lutnick is in it, the guy who's always creepily standing behind Trump in like any video or picture you can ever find of him. This guy was Jeffrey Epstein's neighbor, and somehow files have to come out to even get people to pay attention to this. I mean, everyone's been talking about this forever, and the deniers still wouldn't act like that was weird. I mean, that always was weird. Yeah, we've been vindicated. He's brought up in the files a bunch of times, but the fact that this even had to come out is pretty ridiculous at this point. How do you just be Jeffrey Epstein's neighbor, and then how do you just happen to be the guy behind Trump in any picture or video you can find? That just doesn't make sense. Then we have Bill Gates, who got an STD, and then I guess wanted like Jeffrey Epstein to help him spike his wife with antibiotics so she wouldn't notice that he gave her an STD too. I mean, just absolutely foul stuff. Several of the files and emails even mention like torture, and victims even discuss cannibalism. I mean, it's just disgusting. And the worst part is these are emails literally from Epstein and from other people to each other. Like, nobody's joking. Nobody's saying, what about torture? Why are you saying this stuff? Like, it seems completely normal to them. Like, no one seems to be coming off as joking in these leaked emails. Nobody seems to be confused or adding context or anything. It seems to be very real conversation. So the fact that victims can say there was like torture and death going on, and then the emails can even back that up to and from Epstein, and I don't see how you can doubt this anymore, basically. It's just clear as day that this stuff is real. We even see stuff that lines up with Pizzagate. We see the same stuff coming back to the same people. We see emailers using like code, like saying, hey, 4 families are coming, each with grandkids. 11-year-olds, 12-year-olds, 14-year-olds, like they're listing the ages of the grandkids. We all know what that likely means. They were requesting kids, or were telling other people who's going to be there or who should be there. It's crazy. The files even say what we already know. Epstein himself jokes about being Mossad. He basically says, tell them I'm not Mossad, smiley face. We all know what that means. And a lot of other files in there insinuate that Jeffrey Epstein was Mossad. Everyone already knew this, but now the doubters are going to have a way harder time doubting this. I mean, Epstein got off with a slap on the wrist back in 2005 because he was tied to intelligence. We then find out further that it's foreign intelligence, Middle Eastern intelligence even, and still somehow he had people pretending that that wasn't obviously Israel, despite him meeting 30-something times with the previous prime minister of Israel. The files even insinuate that Donald Trump's first presidency was actually a shadow presidency of his son-in-law. Jared Kushner, who married Ivanka Trump, is Trump's son-in-law now, and in the file somebody basically says flat out that the 2016 Trump presidency was actually a Kushner presidency. It was a shadow presidency. He was the one pulling the shots, which kind of makes sense, right? Because 2016 presidency Trump did not line up with campaign promise Trump. You know, just look at his vice president, Mike Pence. I mean, all the neocons are on his side. The worst part is this is what Trump pretended he wasn't going to do in 2024. On the Joe Rogan podcast, Joe Rogan was like, hey, what are your regrets? He said, surrounding myself with bad people. And then Trump goes, makes his cabinet, picks the same exact neocon kind of guys, and just immediately starts endorsing all the worst people and bringing all the worst people close to him. So he learned nothing. And that's just ridiculous, because you can't pretend. You can't say your biggest regret from 2016 was surrounding yourself with bad people and then just surrounding yourself with bad people again. Let's just hope nobody falls for that ever again. If I was running for president, I would lay out who I'm picking right off the bat. I would let people know fully full transparency on who I intend on having on my cabinet, because nothing ended up going the way Trump said it was going to. But enough about Trump and his last presidency. The real focus here is on the Epstein files. We have a lot of bad stuff in here. I feel so bad for all the victims, always have. Very thankful Thomas Massie, Ro Khanna, and everyone else that signed on to this bill and co-signed it. I'm very glad they all followed through with this. Originally, it looked like it wasn't even going to pass. Ended up passing with only one person turning it down, someone who got an endorsement 5 days ago from Trump. Tells you everything you need to know, right? If you want an endorsement from Trump, you better have said no. The files just detail so many horrible things. There's millions of documents, so we're going to be seeing new updates every day as people discover them and find them. I know every single time I refresh X, I read something new about it. It's probably going to be pretty heavy on all of our mental health and mood the next few weeks, but this is very necessary stuff. It's very necessary to find out who in our government and who in power, and even which celebrities are actually just criminals. Funny enough, Ron Paul is in the Epstein files, but for the complete opposite reason. There's basically emails between Epstein and others saying any of the Republican candidates can win and we'll get our way. Any of them will help us attack Iran. Many of them will be on our side, except for Ron Paul. They're like, Ron Paul is an anti-war libertarian and he will not be on our side. So that's pretty funny. Imagine being in the Epstein files, but for the opposite reason. Like their own words have like exonerated you. This is really funny, right? Because just because you're not in the files doesn't mean you didn't partake. You know, there's 10,000 victims. There's probably a lot of people who are never even mentioned that were involved in this. You know, they're probably like blackmailed somewhere. There's probably some stuff like the FBI or the CIA don't have, but Mossad or whoever is behind this or involved in the blackmail themselves probably have, you know, because that was the whole point, the blackmail. So they probably have evidence of this, but it's not necessarily going to be in the Epstein files, so anyone could technically be guilty. But Ron Paul is the one person basically exonerated. Like, he's in there for them to say he will not be on our side and he is not a candidate we want to win. And that's pretty funny. So good for Ron Paul. Guess he was a real deal all along. A lot of us already knew that, but that's just good to know. But like, where do we go from here, right? We see all the people we expect to be quiet are being quiet. No one from the administration is saying anything. No one in politics is saying anything, even on the left. I mean, just almost no one is saying anything. No official like politician is saying anything other than like Thomas Massie and Ro Khanna, who are the people who signed and co-signed this bill in the first place. But where do we go from here? What does J.D. Vance do? What does he say about this? He has to say something or he's just gonna get destroyed. He's just not gonna be president. Like, where are these people? Like, this is anyone's opportunity to just say, this was bad, we need to do something about this and get some graces from the people, but no one seems to be doing this. Whoever becomes president next, or even just local elections, even just a congressman, whoever gets elected is gonna have to be someone that stood against this. Even for pretend. The fact that no one will even pretend to be against this and speak out about the Epstein files is incredibly concerning. How are they not even pretending? Like, you would think there'd just be some like sleeper cells, some like agent, some controlled opposition that would speak out on this, you know? But there doesn't seem to be. Nobody is saying anything. But this is deeply concerning. It seems like our current administration, and even all the way back to Reagan and George Bush Sr., had blackmail and were involved in the sex trafficking scandal. That's 1984. And it probably goes even before that. I would assume this has been going on since after JFK. But we know for a fact it's definitely been going on since the 80s. Basically, we haven't had a legitimate president at the very earliest since the 1980s. They have all been controlled through blackmail by Israel. If nothing's ever made sense to you in politics, if you're like, I don't get it, why would you even pass this bill? Why would you say this? It's because of Israel. I made a post saying something like this. I said, almost every single problem with America today can be traced back to Israel and the Epstein blackmail. Wonder why we have so many refugees coming in? Israel displacing people all across the world. Wonder why housing is so expensive? BlackRock is buying up all the single-family homes. Wonder why politicians keep pushing for higher taxes? They want to fund more wars for Israel and allow Israelis to live off our government. Wonder why the government keeps pushing wokeism and laws against free speech? They want to silence critics and push for anti-Semitism laws. Wonder why the government keeps fighting against the Second Amendment? They want us to be disarmed and unable to fight back. Wonder why our politicians flip on their own campaign promises? They are threatened by their donors with blackmail and or violence. It feels like nothing has made sense. It feels like nothing has made sense for decades, and that's because it hasn't. Everything going on has been in the best interest of a foreign country that blackmails our politicians and harms our children. None of that is far from the truth. We now know our Congress, our Senate, and our presidency has been compromised by this blackmail. We now know that they could just make someone do something through threats of this blackmail. It was already bad enough we knew they were the top donors, but it seemed like even if there was something money couldn't buy, this blackmail could make it happen. And as I was saying, we know from the files that this goes all the way back to George Bush Sr. and Reagan, at least. Doesn't even matter what side. Doesn't even matter what side. We know the Clintons are one of the biggest people on here. Bill Clinton is all over this thing. So like I was saying, where do we go from here? J.D. Vance is the vice president right now. He has heavy ties to like Palantir and other Zionist figures. Like, where do we go from here? Whoever wins next needs to not just be unattached to any of this at all, but have been a proven, long-running proven critic of Israel and Zionism as a whole. Someone like Ron Paul, who is specifically in the files for not being on their side. Someone with a proven track record. Someone that can't possibly be a plant or controlled opposition because we have evidence of them fighting against this decades ago. Years ago, at least. Because otherwise we can't trust them. And everyone's going to pretend to speak out about this now, but did they speak about it when it mattered? Did they speak out about this from 1984 to now, or anywhere in between, anywhere basically before this bill got passed by Thomas Massie and co. At this point, I think someone like Thomas Massie is our only hope. He's the one who pushed this bill out. He's the one who's been consistent on everything. He's the one that's voted for Republicans 91% of the time. Thomas Massie is the one that can get along with Democrats. He's the kind of person that no one seems to be smearing on both aisles, except for the current establishment. This current establishment we should be voting against, by the way. But I just feel horrible for the victims, always have, always will. I feel so horrible that so many people tried speaking about this before in the past, like Mel Gibson, who were then destroyed by the media, Michael Jackson, who's destroyed by the media. They call Michael Jackson a pedophile, make the media attack him, make his own siblings turn against him, who then redacted those claims and said they were forced to, in fear of him or them getting hurt. We now know this was basically just media slander. The law had nothing to do with this. Michael Jackson was not found guilty, but the damage was already done. And all of this was because Michael Jackson started writing a song that was pro-Palestine months before all these smears came out. It's consistent that the celebrities that spoke out about this stuff and tried revealing it from behind the scenes were smeared and destroyed. Like Charlie Sheen, that's another one. It's a shame because they tried and were destroyed for it. I never smear these people. I always want to hear people out. I have a very human approach to everything. As like a big psychology nerd, I think even if someone is saying the wrong things in their world, they're correct. So I always thought something probably happened to them. Maybe something that they're overgeneralizing, but in their world, it had to have been valid. Like in Mel Gibson's world, people were out to get him. You know what I mean? In Kanye's world, these lawyers were drugging him and threatening to take his kids. Like in these people's world, this is all fact. Whether it's generalizable fact that can be consistent in other people's lives, that's one thing. But I do believe most people are telling at least their truth. But again, I feel horrible for the victims. I hope this brings them some justice. I don't think it will unless, of course, something is actually done. I don't know where this goes from here. All I know for sure is we're going to see a lot of weapons of mass distraction coming out. We're probably going to, I wouldn't be surprised if we see a war break out over this. They're just going to do anything to distract from this release. If we thought the ICE stuff from last week was bad, if we thought that was a big news story and was like kind of taking away attention from other stories, we're going to see something much bigger than that. And I'm scared for that. And I hope everyone's okay. Stay safe out there. Let me know what you think. Like I said, we're going to be in for a lot more gruesome stories. Millions of documents were released. It's going to take weeks to go through all this stuff. It's going to be pretty difficult to get through all this, but hopefully we can all do it together. Stay well and stay safe out there, everyone.